Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mid-Manhattan MMALC family and guests. We're glad you could join us today, and we're excited about today's podcast. Our today's podcast is the New York City Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. So we're going to get some interesting information and free resources that we can all use, whether we're immigrants or whether we're just residents of New York. So first, we're going to try something different. Usually we ask you to put your attendance, to put your name and your teacher's name in the chat box. We're going to do something different. In the chat box, we have a link. So click on that link and it opens to 4 questions. Okay, it asks for your last name, which is your family name, your first name. Put your class, do it right now, please, while I'm talking. Click on that link. Put your class. Are you in a basic education class? Are you in an English as a second language? Are you in a computer class, a Microsoft class? And then it's going to ask the teacher's name. Make sure you know your teacher's name. And then it's going to ask for the title of this workshop. This workshop you're going to place in there is MOIA. It's an acronym, which is an abbreviation or shortened form of a word. So it stands for Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. So you can just put MOIA. Also, when I say MMALC, that's also an acronym for Mid-Manhattan Adult Learning Center. Once you complete the last question, please click submit, and that link will automatically come to us. This is important because you get credit for your attendance, and we get credit for your attendance. So please make sure you do that. Throughout this podcast, we're going to ask you to please make sure if any latecomers are in the podcast to please fill out that link. Okay? Thank you. So I hope you're all doing that and you finished. So I'd like to introduce to you first our creator of MMALC's podcast and also our engineer for today, Mr. Carlos Rosas. Carlos, come on down.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
And he's also a case manager at Mid-Manhattan. So whenever we come back into the school, you will see both of us there. My name is Sula Haska, and I'm also a case manager at Mid-Manhattan Adult Learning Center, and I am your host today. So our guest today, we have a wonderful guest from the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. Her name is Azmahan Malo. She is a neighborhood organizer with the New York City Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, where she conducts outreach with immigrant communities in Manhattan and the Bronx. And she offers support and connects immigrants to critical resources and services for free. So without further ado, give a warm welcome to Azmahan. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. I don't know if you want me to just do a little bit more information about my work or just jump right in.
Well, let me ask you a few questions.
Sure.
I want to know why you chose to work in the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. I'm sure our students would love to know that.
Yeah. Well, just biographically, my background, I am an immigrant myself. My family and I originally are from Somalia, right, in East Africa. And, we were folks who really relied on others to help us navigate the country and figure out, how to set up and to live and work and love in the U.S. And so I was always so thankful for the folks who helped me. And I've also been aware of just the struggles of immigrant communities like the ones I grew up in. So when I had the opportunity to work at the mayor's office, with a government agency, I really thought it would be a great place to connect with immigrants and offer the help that I was given, but more importantly, to bring about change and make things better, and challenge our government to do even better work than what I was introduced to when I came to the country. So yeah, it's just kind of a good combination of things that I'm passionate about, but also work that I feel I've always kind of thought I would end up doing.
It sounds like a great plan.
Yes, it is.
Right. Let me ask you, what would you say is the best part about working there?
The best part is being with the community, I have to say. So my job as an organizer is mostly in the field, which is basically in the neighborhoods, working directly with immigrants. I'm not really in the office that much. I'm always, in neighborhoods. I'm always in the street. I'm always talking to everyday people. And that's my favorite part, like just connecting and talking to people, meeting new people, and getting kind of invited into their lives, and knowing, what their day in and day out looks like. It's been really, really rewarding.
Fabulous. We need more people like you.
Thank you so much.
And that's why we're in this service industry, because we care. So without further ado, why don't you take it away? You can tell them a little more about yourself if you want, and how long have you been working there, and then you can begin your PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, so actually what I'll do is I'll jump in just to give everybody a context of the work that our office does. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen.
Before you begin, let me just mention to the students, if you see anything on the screen that you like, take your phones, take your pictures, write it down, get your notes ready, okay? Take your pictures, because this is important information, and she's going to give you so much information. It may be a little difficult to digest everything. So
yeah, and I'll pace myself too. So
great.
Hopefully everyone gets to hear what they're hoping to hear. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. So hopefully everybody can see it. There we go. So as Zula mentioned, and I have said before, I work at the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. Something that you'll become aware of is that there are a lot of mayor's offices, right? And they do a lot of different things. Our office works with immigrants directly. So anything affecting immigrants, any issues that they have, that's what our office is interested in. And so today, this presentation is meant to tell you the type of offerings we have at our office, especially around resources that are free and available no matter what your immigration status is. And we're also focusing a lot on resources that have to do with COVID, which we realized is obviously impacting immigrant families the worst. So I will go over that. And a good place to begin is to sort of talk about what we've noticed since the pandemic started, and how that has affected the way that we do the work that we do and what we're trying to focus on. So what we realize is that immigrants, right, are the people who have been the ones risking their lives. They've been the ones who, when everyone else was told to stay at home and take care of themselves, it was immigrant families who were ensuring that all of us were able to still get the things that we needed. So what I mean by that is, almost 60% of essential workers, right? That's the term that we've heard a lot during the pandemic. The folks who are in healthcare and hospitals, or people who deliver us food or work in home health aid centers, those were immigrants, right? That's 60% of New York City's population who have been helping us take care of our basic needs, right? Making sure that we can stay home, stay safe, and successfully quarantine. So with that understanding, we recognize that they're the heroes that everyone is talking about. More importantly, that these are the people who have been at the most risk of contracting COVID, right? Because they're still working, they're still making sure the city runs. And so our job is to realize, okay, what can we do to help them, right? Because we also understand that a lot of immigrants are undocumented, right? A lot of immigrants also lost their jobs during the pandemic. So these are the facts that we're working with, and these are the facts that help us create the best resources to support immigrant New Yorkers. So it's things like unemployment and being undocumented, which also doesn't allow you to claim unemployment benefits or other relief aid that has come out during the pandemic that has informed us. Also, we know that immigrants tend to have other vulnerabilities, right? They have higher poverty rates. They tend to live in overcrowded housing, and that'll come up later in this presentation. They tend to not have access to health care, and sometimes they're afraid to seek help or get things like healthcare or get food assistance because of just fear of their immigration status. And so this PowerPoint is meant to help immigrants like that, immigrants who have been, in the field, get the support that they have been giving the rest of the city, and that is what our office is dedicated to. So I want to start off by talking about just the guidance in general, right? One thing I've noticed working with immigrant communities is that a lot of our information comes from word of mouth, right? Someone tells you what you should know instead of you getting it directly from, let's say, a government agency or a healthcare provider. So right now, it's really important for me as a representative of the city to tell you the right information. So there are core 4 prevention actions regarding COVID that I want to reiterate or tell you again, which is stay home if you're feeling sick. If you've tested positive because you've taken a COVID test, again, stay home and quarantine. Wear a mask. The scientists and the health professionals have all shown us that masks are effective and they've actually helped stop the spread of COVID. Keep 6 feet of distance when you're in public, right? If you're getting essential things like groceries or seeing a doctor or something like that, just keep 6 feet between you and a stranger and wash your hands frequently. Another thing I really want to emphasize is to avoid traveling and getting together with others. I know that there are birthdays and there's holidays, but unless those folks live in the home with you, getting together in those kind of celebrations actually put yourself and others at risk. So we really want folks to not do that unless extremely necessary. And then something else that I think is a really great resource is to call 844-692-4692 or 311 if you have any questions on any of the things I've shared right now, right? So if you need medical advice, if you're experiencing symptoms and don't really know what to do, someone you can get on the phone with someone and they can help you figure it all out. Another resource I really enjoy that I use all the time is the COVID text updates. So if you text COVID to 692-692, or if you prefer Spanish, you text COVID ESP to the same number, 692-692, you can get text updates in real time from the city. So if a school closes down or a new testing site pops up or any alerts regarding COVID will come through those text alerts, and they're free, and they're very helpful right now as things change from minute to minute. So I definitely encourage you to sign up for those. Speaking of COVID testing, so one thing, again, as we're talking about word of mouth, is that people don't really understand when and why we need to get tested often. So, for example, there is this idea that you should only get tested if you feel sick or if you think you've been exposed, and that's not true. you should get tested regularly, especially if you are not quarantining strictly, which means that you've left your house to get groceries, or you're taking the subway sometimes, or anytime that you're outside of your home. It's important to know what your COVID status is. So, for example, I get tested regularly because I know that I leave my home to do those kind of errands. And when I know my status, then I'm sure that when I go out, I'm not, spreading COVID or endangering anybody else. And we also know through science that not everyone shows symptoms. So there are times where people think they're not, they don't have COVID because they don't have any symptoms, like their nose isn't running, they don't have a fever, whatever else, and they actually are COVID positive. And so when they go out, they don't know that they're spreading COVID or endangering others. So I really encourage everyone to get tested frequently. And it's really easy, as the COVID tests are free. And there actually are community testing sites where there's not long lines and that you can get in and out very quickly. So if you go to nyc.gov/COVID test, you will see a list of over 200 community sites. And like, for example, I use that because I didn't want to go to the city MD because those lines are always so long because they're very popular. And I found one 5 minutes away from my house. And I got out of there in like 10 minutes. So what I did is I actually put Mid-Manhattan Adult Learning Center's address in just to see what was closest to you guys. And I found one. It's a local site. It's the Gotham Health Sidon Clinic. And it was like a 4-minute walk from the location. And also a really great resource, again, is, if you don't want to get tested at a community site and you prefer hospitals, or hospitals are closer, like health and hospitals, you can go to the health and hospital site at www.newyorkcityhealthandhospitals.org/testing-wait-times. And what that does is it lets you know how long you would have to wait for a COVID test at a health and hospital. And that's really helpful because you can properly plan your day. If a site is really busy, then you'll know not to go there. So I think it's a really great resource, and I really want folks to take advantage of that as well. And then another thing that is really critical right now that I want everyone to know about is test and trace. You've probably seen a lot of ads in the city for that. And I know it can get very confusing, so I just wanted to make it clear for you what test and trace is. So test and trace is the city's public health initiative. And the purpose of it is the city created this program in order to trace the spread of the virus, right? This is meant so that people can make sure that there's not super spreading, right? And the only way that this initiative is successful is if everybody participates. So that means if you've gone to a testing site and you tested positive, the test and trace team's job then is, again, to trace. So they'll call you and they're going to try to make sure that you're quarantining, right? If you were exposed, right, like let's say you went to a restaurant or something and someone there tested positive on the same day, while you had been at that restaurant with that person, they'll give you a call and say, hey, you might have been exposed, please go get tested. So basically they're just here to help us and the city at large curve the spread of COVID. So if you get a call from a 212-540 number or a 212-242 number, please answer, because that way we can trace the spread and make sure that less and less people are exposed to COVID. Something really important to know that is that the calls are confidential and private. So if you pick up, they're not being recorded, they're not being shared with anybody else. And they're only going to ask you how you're feeling, if you need assistance, if you have any questions, they'll help you answer it. And they will never ask you for your social security number or any financial information because all the assistance they provide is free. But it's really important that, for example, if you've traveled, you get a call from Test and Trace when you come back to New York, that you answer that call because, they're trying to ensure you're safe and the rest of the city is safe. And then we have to take care hotels, which is a really, really, really important resource that I want everybody to be aware of. So earlier I mentioned that immigrant communities tend to have overcrowding in their houses, right? So it's a lot of people living in one space, sometimes a space that shouldn't hold that many people. And so when we were saying things like quarantine at home, stay away from others early on in the pandemic, that was something that our office noticed, like how do immigrant communities keep distance when they live in a very cramped house? So the city launched the hotel program, and it's basically for anyone who either has COVID or lives with someone who tested positive for COVID. And so what you can do is you can safely quarantine for free at a New York City hotel up to 14 days, no matter what your insurance status is, no matter what your immigration status is. It's just a free service to help you safely quarantine. And all you have to do to request a hotel room is to call 212-COVID-19, or numerically, that's 212-268-4319. And while you're there, there's a team on site. They check on you, they bring you food, they provide pharmaceuticals. So like if you have a prescription drug, they'll bring it to you, they'll check on you regularly. And also, again, it's run through Test and Trace, the public initiative I just mentioned. And something that the Test and Trace team does is they send you take care packages to you if you've tested positive and your family members. And it has like PPE, like masks, hand wipes, informational packets, and they provide it to a household of up to 3 people. And then another really critical resource I want to share with you all is going to a health and hospital. If you don't know health and hospitals, it is the city's network of public hospitals and clinics. And the reason why I bring it up is because it's really imperative or really important for immigrant New Yorkers to know about, because a lot of immigrant New Yorkers, like I mentioned, are undocumented. And a lot of them also just don't have insurance. And something really important to know is that if they need medical care and they go to a health and hospital, they will be treated and taken care of no matter what their insurance status is or their immigration status. Health and hospitals also doesn't report anyone's immigration status. And more importantly, you know, a lot of undocumented immigrants worry about ICE raids or immigration enforcement. And ICE does not come to public hospitals, and especially in health and hospitals. So we really want to encourage anyone who needs medical attention, right? If they've tested positive for COVID and they're feeling very sick, or just in general, if they have any health needs, please don't hesitate to get treatment at a health and hospital. There's a link below of all the public hospitals, and they're by borough. So if you go to nychealthandhospitals.org/hospitals, you can find one closest to you. In this case, I think the closest to the Mid-Manhattan Learning Center is Mount Sinai or Harlem Hospital. And they, again, will treat you no matter what your immigration or insurance status is. And a really other great resource is NYC Care. If you have been taking a subway in the last 2 years, you've seen advertisement for NYC Care. So NYC Care is a program that I'm very proud of. It was created, again, based off of immigrant need. So we realize that a lot of folks don't qualify for health insurance, whether that's public insurance through the government or private through your employer. And, you know, that is troubling for us because we want to make sure everyone has access to health care and that no one goes a year or whatever long without seeing a doctor if they need, or having their prescriptions if they need. So NYC Care is a program that was created by the city, not an insurance, but it's a program, but it works just like a health insurance. And the important thing about it is that it works with your income level. So if you don't qualify for public or private insurance, you can enroll into NYC Care. And let's say you make no money, right? You have no income for a year. NYC Care then is free for you. So it works on a sliding scale. So it's always equal to what your income level is. So it's always affordable. And so you receive healthcare through the New York City Health and Hospitals, like we just mentioned. And it does everything that a health insurance does, right? It gives you preventative care, mental health support, you get customer service 24/7, you get access to prescriptions, you get major surgeries, dental, eye care. So for all intents and purposes, it's just like a health insurance, and it's available to anyone in New York City, regardless of their immigration status, as long as they don't qualify for private or public insurance. And so the eligibility is that you have to have lived in New York City for 6 months, and that you don't qualify for any health insurance in a New York State. And so to enroll, you can call 844-692-4692, and you can speak with somebody in the language that you speak. So we have over 250 languages available and a representative there to speak it with you. And then let's say this is all very confusing for you and you don't know if you qualify for NYC Care, you don't know if you qualify for public, you don't know if you qualify for private. We have a service called Get Covered NYC, and it's a free service where you just call 311 and say, Get Covered NYC. You talk to a specialist, and then they just get some information from you, and then they let you know what you qualify for. So they'll get you enrolled in whatever healthcare plan works for you in your situation. You can also text Covered NYC to 877-877. And then, again, this is information that I've already shared. Get Covered NYC to 877-877 or 311, and just say Get Covered. And then, again, back to healthcare. So as everyone is hearing, New York City is up and running with the vaccinations in the city. And what's really important that I want everyone to know is that you can get vaccinated no matter what your immigration status is. And also the vaccinations are free. And I was going to mention public charge, but recently we got good news that public charge is no longer an issue, so I'm not going to cover that. But I really want folks to be really patient about the vaccine efforts, because as you guys know, we get direction from the state. And so, if you're not eligible, you just have to wait, because moment for moment it changes. Right now, currently individuals age 60 and older are eligible for the vaccine. If you're a grocery store worker or a teacher, if you're basically an essential worker, you're eligible for the vaccine. But please make sure that your category or your situation is met in the guidance. So please go to COVID-19 vaccine.health.ny.gov. And when you go to that site, it'll let you know which categories are eligible for the vaccine. And please check it regularly, because every day, day to day, minute to minute, it can change, right? We get new guidance from the governor. So your category or your situation can make you eligible depending on how soon that information comes out. So please check. And if you are eligible, you can go to vaccinefinder.nyc.gov, and you can find the closest vaccine site and appointment by going to the site. Or you can call 877-VAX for NYC, and someone will pick up and you can speak to them in the language you prefer. And again, appointments are given on availability. So just because you're eligible and just because there's a site next to you does not mean that an appointment is always available. But if you sign up, they will give you a call when it is, and then you just come down and then you get vaccinated. Again, the service is free. You don't have to give anyone any money or any credit card information, and no one should ask you for your immigration status. And if they do, please call 311 and say that you would like to report this kind of scam, and the city will take care of that issue. And then another thing I wanted to mention is that we've been talking a lot about physical health, but I also want to mention mental health. This is a very trying time for everybody. It's very mentally demanding, and it doesn't always feel good to be in your home, to be dealing with health crisis. There's so much stress involved with that, and we just want to make sure that people are taking care of their mental health as much as they're taking care of their physical health. So we have a free mental health service called NYC Well, and they're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they speak over 200 languages, these specialists, and they provide crisis counseling, peer support, short-term counseling, and they can connect you to long-term mental health and substance misuse services. And you can speak with them through phone or text. So if you want to call, if you prefer to speak to someone over the phone, you can call 1-888-692-9355. Again, that number is 1-888-692-9355. And if you prefer to text, which I do sometimes, you can text WELL to 65173. Again, that's WELL to 65173. And please go up to our website at nyc.gov/NYC to get more information or get the same information I just shared. And then something I really wanted to mention is signing up for public benefits if you qualify. So with immigrant communities, there's a lot of confusion about who qualifies for public benefits and if it's worth signing up. I want folks to know that just because let's say you're a parent, just because if you're undocumented, that doesn't necessarily mean that the people in your household can't qualify for public benefits, or you can't receive public benefits on their behalf. So, and that's what we call mixed status households, right? So everyone's immigration status is not the same. So if your children, for example, are permanent residents or they're citizens, you can actually sign up for public benefits on their behalf. And so you'll receive things like the one-shot deal, which helps with things like evictions, or if you can't pay your utilities, they'll provide you some financial assistance, cash assistance, SNAP, which is the food benefit. So there's a lot of public benefits that we really worry folks will not get access to just because they worry that they don't qualify. So we really want people to apply, especially if they're in a mixed status households, by calling the HRA info line at 718-557-1399, because you can talk to someone before you apply. But if you know that you qualify for public assistance, you haven't, please know that it's all online this year. It's through the portal, which is access.nyc.gov. Again, that's access.nyc.gov. You can actually do it through your phone too if you download the Access HRA app through Android or smartphone. Sorry, not smartphone, Apple. Again, please take advantage of this service, because at this time, we really can't afford for people to not use the resources that are available to them. But I wanted to pause really quick. I don't know, Sula, you wanted to add anything?
Thank you so much. Such I want to remind you to please, when you look into the comments in the chat box, the only way we collect your attendance is when you click on the link that Carlos Rosas is sending us. I'm still seeing students say, this is my name and this is my teacher. We're trying something different. We're not taking attendance that way. So from time to time, you will see the link from Carlos Rosas. It will say, click here to report your attendance. And then you click on that and you fill out those 4 questions and click submit. And we will get your attendance that way. Because I'm seeing so many students attending, which is fabulous. But I just want to make sure we're collecting your attendance the correct way. So please go into that link from time to time. Carlos will be putting the link in again and again and again. If you've filled out that form, don't fill it out again. But if you haven't, please click in and fill it out again, or fill it for the first time. Thank you so much. Thank you for letting me make that announcement.
Of course, super important.
Thank you.
And then I wanted to share NYC Meal Hub. So regardless of whether you have public benefits or not, if you're facing food insecurity, meaning you don't have access to food, the city has a free meal program called Get Food NYC. And so adults, children can receive 3 meals a day through our meal hubs. And there's different times for different folks. So for children, you can visit any of the Department of Education's schools. Sorry, that came out crazy. What I meant to say is that you can get, if you're a child, you can get meals through the DOE site from your school. You can actually double check if you go to www.schools.nyc.gov/school life, food, school meals. We can also just go to nyc.gov/getfood. If you go to nyc.gov/getfood, you can find the finder for children, and it'll let them know what school has their meals and during what periods. But for non-students and for adults, Monday to Friday, you can go to any of the city's meal hubs. They can be DOE sites or others, but again, nyc.gov/getfood. And again, they provide 3 meals a day. They're free. And you can also text food to 877-877. Again, that's food to 877-877 if that's easier for you. But again, we really want to make sure that no one is going without a meal or without any food. And then obviously there are people who cannot leave their homes, and we understand that. So Get Food also delivers food. So you can sign up for that at the website nyc.gov/getfood. And then a really great thing that I wanted to mention is that households can actually sign up for up to a month of free food delivery when they go through the site. And we also have kosher, halal, vegetarian, and culturally diverse meals. So it's just a really great program for anyone who's dealing with food insecurity. And then I wanted to mention other options for folks who need assistance, right? So, public benefits, like through HRA, has a lot to do with immigration status, right? So one thing I mentioned earlier was the one-shot deal, which provides assistance to anyone who hasn't been able to pay rent and is facing eviction, or they've been unable to pay their utilities. Or generally they just have a hard time paying for anything related to keeping their apartment or their home. We have a program called Fasten that's for the folks who don't qualify for the one-shot deal. So that could be because of your immigration status or whatever reason. And what the Fasten program does is it provides one-time or short-term financial assistance. They can help you pay your overdue rent or the rent that's coming up. If you're moving to a new apartment, you can't afford your security deposit or the moving costs, they can assist you with that. And this is, again, free financial assistance. And it's run through the Home Base, which is a homeless prevention nonprofits that are contracted by the city. So if you want to see if you qualify for the Fasten program or you need assistance, you can go to www.nyc.gov/site/HRA/homebase.page. But it's a lot easier if you just put home base, NYC home base into Google, and then the first link as a .gov site is the home base site. But I also will be sharing this information afterwards. You'll have it on. And then here are the locations. So when you go on the site, you will see this information. So there's home base locations in all 5 boroughs, and they're run through different nonprofits as well. And then we can come back to this if you need to write that down. And then in general, right now, a lot of folks are facing eviction. There's a lot of tension between them and their landlords or their super. So if you're being harassed by your landlord, if you're facing eviction, you don't understand what all of these notices mean, you need assistance with just whatever's going on regarding your housing situation, we have an office called the Mayor's Office to Protect Tenants. And that's the work that they do, which is to help you figure these things out, get the help that you need, and especially if you're being harassed or threatened or anything like that. So if any of that sounds familiar to you and you do need this help, please call 311 and say Tenant Helpline, and they will connect you to a representative from the Mayor's Office to Protect Tenants. And again, this is free assistance. This is the work that they do, and they're just really here to advocate for New Yorkers and make sure that they're not in these situations. And then I just wanted to mention, I wouldn't even say I want to mention, this is like one of the most critical programs that we run in our office at the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. We have a program called Action NYC. And Action NYC is a free immigrant legal services program. So if you are dealing with any immigration issue, right? Let's say you have questions about public charge, or you have questions about deportation, or let's say you want to figure out if you qualify for a green card or a student visa, whatever legal immigration need you have, you can call Action NYC and they provide free legal assistance. So the number for that, if you want to set up an appointment or you want to ask a question, our hotline number is 1-800-354-0365. Again, that number is 1-800-354-0365. And the hotline is open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And for some reason, if you don't remember that number, because you don't have time to remember numbers, you can call 311 and say Action NYC. And then I also wanted to let folks know that if you have submitted a UCIS immigrant application and it's taking longer than usual outside of the 6 months, you can call 1-800-375-5283, 1-800-375-5283, and that's UCIS's customer service line. And when you call them, you can let them know that your case is taking longer than the time that it's supposed to, and that they should give you an update. And I also wanted to mention that we have burial assistance that we provide. So that comes from us understanding that right now, people are losing their loved ones, and, they should be dealing with that grief and that grief alone. And we don't want the cost of having to bury them be something else that you're struggling with. So the city has financial assistance to families who can't cover the cost of burials. And it's important that you know that immigration status does not matter. You can apply for the burial assistance. And the burial allowance is at $1,700 and the cap is at $3,400. You can also apply for this 120 days after the person has passed, right? So let's say you bury them already and 120 days haven't passed and it's been a big financial burden for you. You can apply for this and they'll reimburse you for the costs there. So there's a bit.ly, so it's bit.ly/burial assistance. That's the application. But if you want an application sent to you or if you have any questions, you can call 929-252-7731. Again, that's 929-252-7731. And then I wanted to mention IDNYC, which is the city's municipal ID. So what that means is that unlike the state ID, which is like a driver's license and things like this, which is a state ID, the IDNYC is a city ID, but it's just like a state ID. It's a government issued ID. So it's a legitimate form of identification, and it's available to all immigrants, all New Yorkers, regardless of their status, immigration status, or their ability to pay. So it's a free card. And the reason why it was created is because we know a lot of folks in the city, especially immigrants, who don't have a government issued ID. So they're unable to, show proof of identification, to pick up their kid from school, or they get stopped by NYPD, or if, they're filling out an application and someone asks for ID. So you can sign up for IDNYC. The eligibility is 10 years and older, so you can sign your kids up as well, or your niece and nephew. And all that's required is 3 points of identity, so at least one showing your face. and then 1 point for a residency, so just to prove that you live here. And these documents don't have to be US-based documents, they can be foreign documents as well. So please sign up for an IDNYC if you don't have a government-issued ID. And even if you do, sign up for an IDNYC anyway, because you get a lot of perks in the city for having an IDNYC. So it serves as a library card. You can get discounts at the movies when they open back up, museums and things like that. So there's a lot of great benefits for having an IDNYC. And if you have one, which is great news, and it's expiring, the good news is that it's all online. So you can go to nyc.gov/IDNYC and renew your card online, and they'll send it to you through mail. And then if you're interested, I know that you guys are doing a lot of English learning at Mid-Manhattan, but we also have English learning classes called We Speak NYC. What's really great about them is they also teach about different resources that our office does and your immigrant rights and things like that. They're really great videos. We won an Emmy Award, which is really great. So I really enjoy watching them. And so if you're interested, they're free. And all you have to do is go to www.nyc.gov/WeSpeakNYC if you want to learn or if you just want to volunteer and teach an English class. And finally, I know someone asked about this. So the city is providing free tax prep for folks who qualify. So if you and your family have an income of $68,000 or less, or you're an individual with an income of $48,000 or less, you can get free tax prep. And this is done through virtually through video conference. They can help you prepare over the phone and email. You can drop off documents and pick up completed ones. And there's also in-person tax prep, and they'll follow, social distance protocols and things like that. So if you need help filing your taxes and you qualify under those income levels, please go to nyc.gov/tax prep. Again, that's nyc.gov/tax prep. And please file your taxes. I think that's all for me. Yeah, so this is a summary of some of the things I mentioned. And then in the end is my contact information as well as my office's contact information. I want to point out right here, everything that I went over this slide, right? I know that I kind of spoke fast just for time's sake. Everything that I mentioned is on our immigrant resource guide, which is electronic. So if you go to nyc.gov/immigrant/coronavirus, you can find all of this information. And if you have questions, please submit them to us, to our office at 212-788-7654. Or if you prefer to email us, you can just email us at askmoya@moya.nyc.gov. So that was a lot of information. I'm going to stop here and take any questions folks have.
Leave that screen. Leave that. Students, teachers, everyone, take a picture of this slide. Fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
This is fabulous. Thank you so much.
Of course. Let me know when you want me to stop sharing my screen.
Okay, just take a moment. Let the students take pictures. Maybe their phone's not handy. Let me also mention again, just for students, because this is a new procedure now for attendance taking. We're trying something new. Carlos put a link in the chat box for an attendance form for you to fill out. We have over 61 students viewing this, but we have a limited amount of students who have completed that form. So let me see. Oh, okay. We have 35 students who completed the form. Good job. Before we had only, very few. We had 8. So we still need more of you to fill that form up. Carlos, would you please put the link in the comments section again so all students have it? Oh, I see it right there. So all you do is click on that link and please fill out the 4 questions. And the workshop is, or the podcast is, MOIA. That's the 4th question, because it's going to ask, what is the presentation? It's MOIA. Then you click on the bottom, click the word submit, and we'll get it immediately. And then I'll get a tally of how many of you really signed in, because we want to make sure you get credit. And we also want to make sure that the school gets credit for you. because that is how we are funded. We are funded through your attendance. Okay? Okay, take a moment, fill that out. And now what we're going to do is we're going to see if there are any questions in the chat just to see.
Mm-hmm.
Carlos, do you see anything? Let's look. Okay, I'm going through just to make sure, because if there are any questions, I know you got your questions answered about the tax. Thank you very much. That's very informative, because how much longer do we have? So let me see. I see a lot of students telling me their names and their teachers' names. That's the way we used to do it. We're doing something new. So make sure you fill out that form. Let me see.
If I can add something.
Yes.
Osman, I'm very happy that you spoke about IDNYC.
Mm-hmm.
The weather's getting warmer. Parents, I know you've got cabin fever, and benefits of IDNYC, the amount of museums that you can get into for free with your children because you're allowed up to a certain amount of guests,
Mm-hmm.
discounts at restaurants, discounts at the movies. Obviously, you have to remain safe because of COVID, because of the risk. But there are some viable options, especially as the weather gets warmer. Actually, just last week, I took my daughter to the Met and to the Brooklyn Museum.
Ooh.
That was all free. Saved up a lot of cash because, let's be honest, the struggle was real, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And it's also just, I mean, that's the great thing with the IDNYC is that it's just free, you know what I mean? And it just has like a lot of benefits. So, yeah, like I think a lot of us also, I know so many New Yorkers who've never been to some of the museums because it's just not been accessible enough, right? Because they can't afford, if they have like 3 kids and, you know, the Met is trying to get you to pay whatever gratuity they want. It's not affordable. So this is a really great opportunity for people to see the city and it not be such a financial burden.
Right.
Yeah. Not to mention all the other benefits as well. You know, you can use it at a doctor's office. Heaven forbid you get stopped by the police. It's good to have, especially if you are not a driver and you don't have a state ID. It's certainly comforting. Let me see.
Right. It's really good to have. You can, you know, use it at certain banks, community banks, as identification. Just so you know, it is a city ID. It is not a state ID. There you go. Get closer.
No, not too close. I want them to not too close. But yeah, no, it's so interesting. I get so happy when I see an ID.
Yes, I have the same one. I have the same. You cannot use this to board a plane.
Right.
Okay. Or what?
Or to order drinks. You can't do
Yeah.
We're all adults here.
Yeah. I mean, but there's also, you know, there's really other, I mean, the great thing is that New York City, New York State has been doing really great immigrant work, right? And so, like, even with the state, for folks who are trying to drive, you know, we have the green light bill that passed and lets folks who are undocumented, who are drivers, qualify for a state ID through this initiative. And so it's just, I think it's just great initiatives, and we're really hoping that soon enough, this is something that expands and we see it in other cities as well. But I think IDNYC is such a great starter for that conversation and making, you know, living in the States accessible and easy for immigrant communities.
Right. And just they don't ask for immigration status.
No.
So you feel it's safe to go there and just give the information. They want to make sure that you are a New York resident.
So
to be documentation. Let them know what documentation they need to bring.
Yeah, so it just all depends, right? So the way that IDNYC works is it's a point system. So you need to have 3 points of identity, right? Just to prove that you are who you're saying you are. But one of those identity documents of the 3 has to have a photo. So for example, like let's say you have a foreign passport. Let's say you're from Tanzania. If you have a Tanzanian passport, you can bring that in. For identity, you can bring in a birth certificate as proof. You can bring in a driver's license if you're a Tanzanian driver's license, and that'll prove your identity. And then for residency, you just show anything that shows you're a New York City resident. So like if you're getting mail from your employer, or you have like, you filed your taxes and it shows your address. So anything that shows that you live here, you work here, and you're a New York City resident. And that's only one person. You only have to bring one document for that.
And you can also find information by going.
Yes. So if you go to nyc.gov/IDNYC, there's an entire document. Also, they're available in other languages too, where you can look at the document guide. You can set up an appointment, and they answer all kinds of questions on there.
That's great information. Carlos, could you put the link, the attendance link, in the chat box again? I'm seeing students still coming in, giving me their name and their teacher's name. Just to mention again, everyone, we're taking attendance in a different format. Carlos is going to put the link in. He just put the link in. It says, click here to report your attendance. Once you click on that link, it will open up to an attendance form. There are 4 questions there: your name, your teacher's name, the class, and what workshop you've attended. This is MOIA. Just put that in. Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. And this has been very informative. Thank you so much. We really appreciate all the information you've given us. I just want to mention to you all that next week, we have another wonderful podcast from Maurice Held from Cornell University's Cooperative Extension. We have a cook-off contest between, he's going to show us how to create a dish, and I will be creating along with him, and another student will be creating with him. So it's cook-off between the student and myself, and all of the other students, all of you will receive from your teacher the recipe. So if you want to cook along, those of you who are remote, this will be a good opportunity to find some fabulous recipes that Chef Maurice, will be next week. And it's at the same time, Thursday, 11:15 to 12:15. And so without further ado, thank you very much, Asmahan. We really appreciate everything you do, your position, the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. We use you and your services, and we thank you for everything that you've shared with us today.
Of course, I'm so happy to be here. And as always, our office is always, trying to be in connection with the community. So if you guys have any questions, I hope everybody took a screenshot of that. Please don't hesitate to reach our office right now, especially during this pandemic. We just want to make sure that people have the resources and supports that they need to get through this time. So thank you so much, Sula, and thank you, Carlos. This was my first time on a podcast of this platform, so I'm very grateful. It's great. It's fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's
amazing. This is a good way to get information to our students.
Yeah, very, very cool. I wish I had this when I was a student, but
more to come. Stay tuned.
So. Yeah. Well,
all right, we'll talk soon. Thank you so much.
Bye.
I hope you all enjoyed this. Bye-bye now.